Welcome to the deep dive. So, if you are anywhere near the world of enterprise AI today, especially with this whole boom in generative models, you probably hit it.
Oh, yeah.
The single most frustrating organizational wall in modern business, it's this adoption paradox.
Mm.
On one side, you have this absolute crushing need for blistering startup level speed. You have to experiment, iterate, and deploy models faster than ever before just to keep up.
And then on the other side, you have the unchanging, non-negotiable demands of any large organization.
Right.
Stability, coordination, security, and just making sure you're not wasting millions of dollars building the same thing 100
Right.
times in different silos.
That tension, that's what we're talking about today.
It's the central challenge, absolutely.
And the core finding from all the source material we've gathered is, well, it's crystal clear. Your traditional, rigid organizational hierarchy, the one that was built for stability and predictability.
It's actively killing your AI efforts.
Exactly. I mean, innovation cycles have compressed from years down to months. So if your internal legal review process takes 6 months,
Your model is irrelevant. It's irrelevant before it even sees the light of day. You're just too slow to learn.
so what's our mission for this deep dive? It's really to understand the organizational necessity of what leading companies are calling the dual operating system.
Right.
Our goal is to figure out how you can maintain that lightning agility of small, autonomous AI teams, the two pizza team idea, but adapted for AI,
Mhm.
while at the same time building that critical connective tissue that prevents total chaos, duplication, and, architectural fragmentation when you try to scale up.
It's the playbook. How to do both at once.
We're digging into the exact playbook for how to do both successfully.
Let's start with the core engine, the thing that actually generates all that speed.
Yeah.
We have to define and empower these high-agency AI teams.
Okay, let's unpack this. The playbook that's emerging, it sounds almost deceptively simple.
It does on the surface.
You assemble these micro teams, right? Typically 3 to 7 people, and you make sure they have highly complementary skills. Then, and this seems to be the crucial part, you grant them real decision authority.
And the early results are they're compelling. These units are shipping production AI applications in weeks.
Weeks, not quarters.
That shift from quarters to weeks, that's the whole game.
Mhm.
And it's enabled by focusing on what organizational scholars, they term it structural empowerment.
Right.
This goes so far beyond just calling a team cross-functional or agile. We've really identified 4 key characteristics that have to be there for these teams to have high agency in an AI context.
Okay, I want to focus on those 4 pillars because it sounds great in theory, but giving a 3-person team that kind of power, it
Yeah.
sounds like a recipe for a bunch of microfiefdoms.
It can be if you don't build the right foundation.
So what are the controls?
Mm.
Or maybe what are the foundations that make this work?
The first foundation is compositional autonomy. So they aren't just cross-functional. They are self-organizing around the 3 necessary roles.
And those are?
Technical leadership. So your senior ML or AI engineers who know the practical limits of the models. Then, domain expertise. The people who deeply understand the business context and the data.
The what and the why.
Exactly. And finally, product management. The folks translating those fuzzy user needs into solvable, measurable AI problems. They aren't waiting for a handoff between those groups. They are the group.
So the magic isn't just having the roles in the building, it's that they reside within a single dedicated unit with shared accountability.
Precisely. And that leads directly into the second foundation, decision rights.
This sounds like the hard part for executives.
It is. This is where the trust comes in. These teams have to have the authority to select models, to define their own success metrics, access production data securely, and, critically, deploy their solution to a subset of users without asking for permission for routine choices.
And if they don't have those rights, what happens?
You just kill the speed. Any decision that requires escalating up the chain immediately reintroduces the bureaucracy you were trying to bypass. You slow down that learning cycle.
Right. And pillar 3.
Protected time. This might sound really basic, but it's a critical failure point we see over and over.
Mm-hmm.
These can't be part-time matrixed assignments where someone is spending 2 days a week on the AI team and 3 days doing their old job. Dedicated allocation is non-negotiable for sustained focus.
Especially in a field that requires so much deep work and experimentation.
Exactly. And the final pillar, resource access.
This is where the budget anxiety kicks in, I imagine.
It is. AI experiments, especially with large language models or specialized hardware, they can get expensive.
Yeah.
So these teams need direct budget control for compute, for API access, for tooling.
Hmm.
If they have to wait 2 months for procurement to sign off on cloud credits,
The opportunity is gone. The edge is gone.
right, and that structural empowerment, it delivers serious ROI. The source material highlights that the biggest win isn't just internal efficiency, it's not just about speed.
Okay.
While organizations report much faster time to first deployment, the real measure of success is higher rates of production adoption.
Models actually getting used.
Yes. And here's where it gets really interesting financially. The ROI rests mostly on opportunity cost. We see companies obsessing over optimizing model accuracy from, say, 95% to
Definitely.
96%.
Chasing that last percentage point.
But in a fast-moving market, just reducing your time to value from 12 months down to 3 months is almost always the better economic outcome. You capture market share, you respond to threats immediately.
It's all about the speed of learning. So what's the actual mechanism here? What explains this speed?
It's the accelerated learning cycles. Traditional AI development is all handoffs. Data science builds a model, hands it to engineering to productionize, who then hands it to the business to validate the results. Each of those handoffs is just pure delay.
Right. Weeks, sometimes months of delay.
But these cross-functional autonomous teams, they collapse those phases into one simultaneous effort. We saw this with a financial services firm focused on fraud detection.
Okay.
They made this shift. They went from retraining their models quarterly to retraining them weekly,
Weekly. Wow.
and they substantially improved their fraud capture rates within 6 months. They were simply learning and correcting errors faster than the criminals could adapt.
That speed is undeniably powerful, but now we hit the scaling challenge. This is the real crux of this whole dual operating system problem.
It is.
If this micro-team model works so well locally, why is scaling it across a big enterprise, going from 5 teams to, say, 50 teams, so incredibly difficult?
Because you just shift the friction. When you look at the economics of an organization, these high-agency teams are brilliant at reducing internal coordination costs.
Because they're all in the same room talking every day.
Exactly. They internalize that negotiation between what's technically feasible and what has business value.
But they're not talking to the other 37 teams doing really similar work.
That's it. You save money on internal communication friction, but you start losing it on external duplication and architectural drift.
So you have multiple groups independently solving the same infrastructure problems.
We're building redundant MLOps pipelines. I mean, the tools you need to train, deploy, and monitor models.
Yeah.
It creates immense organizational waste.
And that waste, plus the loss of visibility, that's what terrifies executives.
Absolutely.
Leaders are just so used to those traditional stage gate processes where they review and approve every major decision before anything happens. This autonomous model requires a radical shift.
It forces leaders to shift from centralized, pre-implementation approval to, instead, monitoring outcomes and intervening only by exception. You're asking a traditional leader to trust the process, not micromanage the detail.
That's a huge ask.
It's an unavoidable necessity in the AI era. You just can't afford to wait for 5 layers of sign-off. But leaders do need mechanisms to ensure safety and coherence are maintained.
Uncomfortable is an understatement. I mean, that sounds like asking a traditional CFO to close their eyes and hope for the best. So how do companies provide that monitoring without smothering the very autonomy the teams need?
And that's where the solution comes in, the dual operating system. You preserve that agility in the network of teams, that's your engine, while you construct these robust enterprise-level coordination mechanisms. That's the connective tissue.
Okay, let's dig into that playbook for coordination. How do we build coherence? Strategy 1 seems to be the transparent platform and standard strategy. The philosophy here is making the easy path the right path.
This is the essential foundational work. It's what prevents the duplication. The platform team provides pre-approved infrastructure for what we call undifferentiated heavy lifting.
Meaning?
Think of things like automated deployment pipelines, continuous security scanning, robust logging monitoring tools. The teams keep their autonomy on application design and model choice, but they inherit enterprise standards for security and observability just by using the pre-built services.
So the platform handles the boring but necessary compliance and infrastructure work.
Right.
And that frees up the small high-agency teams to focus their genius on the specific business problem.
Precisely. You look at Capital One. They implemented a shared AI platform that serves multiple autonomous teams across credit risk, fraud, customer experience. The platform handles shared model governance, deployment automation. It just reduces all that duplicated infrastructure work. No one is building their own logging system from scratch while maintaining team velocity.
Okay, so the platform solves the technical standardization challenge. But that's only half the battle. How do you standardize knowledge and best practices across these separate groups without just turning it into another mandatory meeting?
That's strategy two. Distributed coordination via guild structures. If you don't want expertise to fragment, if you want your best engineers to show their optimization tricks, you need these horizontal mechanisms for knowledge sharing that don't introduce bureaucratic bottlenecks.
Guilds. It sounds a little medieval, but the concept is powerful. These are basically voluntary communities of practice that cut across the autonomous teams, right?
Exactly. They form around technical domains like how do we optimize the cost of running inference, or governance topics, like defining best practices for fairness testing. And crucially, they are advisory, not mandatory.
Ah, so they only succeed if people actually find them useful.
Yes, they succeed because teams derive tangible value. They go to problem-solving clinics, they find answers in shared documentation repositories faster than they could build it themselves.
That voluntary element is key. You join because it helps you move faster, not because your manager told you to. The sources mention ING Bank using AI guilds to coordinate on compliance and responsible AI.
And it means the standards get adopted through peer pressure and shared learning, not some top-down mandate, which leads directly to strategy three, clear decision rights and authority matrices,
This is about eliminating ambiguity.
which is autonomy's kryptonite. If a team doesn't know what they can decide on their own, they will always default to seeking permission, and permission kills speed.
So we need frameworks. Frameworks that clearly define what falls under autonomous team decisions, like model architecture versus consultative decisions.
Like introducing a new ML framework that impacts the shared platform.
And finally, escalated decisions, the big strategic changes that impact the whole business unit.
The key is making these decision rights context-dependent and tiered based on risk. Adobe offers a great insight here.
How so?
They grant teams explicit authority for model deployment, up to defined low-risk thresholds. So for instance, if a model only affects a limited percentage of users or has a bounded revenue impact, the team just deploys it immediately.
And why is that specific thresholding approach so powerful?
Because it forces the governance conversation to focus only on genuine material risk. Only when the team wants to exceed those thresholds, say, deploying a high-impact generative model to 100% of their customer base, only then is a peer review or a formal risk check required.
So it keeps 80% of the routine decisions moving at top speed.
And it dedicates that scarce executive attention only to the 20% that carry significant enterprise risk. It's just smart risk management.
Okay, that's smart. Now, moving into sustaining this capability, let's talk strategic coherence. Given the speed of AI, traditional annual planning is, well, it feels totally insufficient.
It is obsolete. Leading organizations are adopting continuous strategy processes. This means strategic themes get refreshed quarterly, not annually.
Quarterly.
Teams align their AI efforts to outcome-based objectives like reduce customer churn by 15%, rather than just executing a static list of technical outputs.
That focus on outcomes, it provides the directional coherence you need, but it still preserves the team's autonomy on how to get there.
Exactly. Intuit uses this model. Executives define those quarterly outcomes, and teams propose the AI initiatives that they believe will contribute. Those proposals get assessed during portfolio reviews, making sure everyone is pointed toward the same goal without micromanaging the day-to-day.
And we also see a huge shift in governance, moving toward federated governance and continuous compliance.
Yes. The old model assumed a centralized, gate-based review before deployment. But models learn, and they drift over time. Pre-deployment review is just not enough.
Especially with live models interacting with real customers in real time.
So we're moving away from the CEO having to sign off on every model update, right? We're pushing that decision authority out to the edges, but putting smart fences around it.
The shift is from that centralized gate-based review to continuous monitoring. This is where automated compliance guardrails embedded right into your CI/CD pipelines, your software delivery backbone, become essential.
Right. These pipelines can automatically run fairness tests or drift checks every single time a model is updated. It's risk-tiered governance in action.
And the sources cite JPMorgan Chase as a great example of this federated model.
They are. They've implemented AI governance across hundreds of models, embedding most compliance checks into automated tooling. And this is crucial because it frees up their specialized model risk management teams to focus on investigating anomalies and monitoring production behavior, instead of just being a rubber stamp for routine updates.
Okay, so finally, the ultimate coordination mechanism, architecture and data stewardship. How do you encourage coherence across dozens of teams without rigid mandates?
You treat architecture and data as products with active stewardship. Platform teams succeed by building attractive, reusable components, like shared data APIs or model feature stores, that product teams choose to adopt,
Why?
because they offer a superior developer experience or a faster path to production than building it yourself.
So you're leveraging human nature, coherence through adoption, not mandate.
Absolutely. The source highlighted Salesforce's approach with their shared ML infrastructure Einstein. Product teams there retain autonomy, but they choose to use the Einstein platform because it actively solicits feedback, it evolves based on their needs, and it makes deployment genuinely easier. It creates de facto standards through network effects.
This whole deep dive, it feels like a masterclass in organizational design for the AI era. The source material is just so clear. Organizations that master this balance, preserving that speed and creativity of autonomous teams while building up the institutional capabilities for coordination, they're the ones who will compound early AI wins into sustained advantage.
The dual operating system is the viable and likely the only path forward.
So for leaders listening, the two key imperatives seem pretty clear. Number one, invest in platforms before you scale the teams.
Yes. That shared infrastructure that prevents chaos, common pipelines, automated compliance, federated data access, it has to come first. Otherwise, you will inevitably hit painful, expensive duplication bottlenecks.
And number two, make those coordination mechanisms like the guilds opt-in and genuinely valuable.
If they're seen as just another bureaucratic meeting, teams will ignore them, and the knowledge will just fragment. They have to be designed to help teams move faster and solve real problems.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to mull over. The source material suggests measuring success beyond just individual team speed.
If you're serious about implementing a dual operating system, you should be tracking coordination quality. Metrics like the percentage of your teams that are reusing shared components or quantifiable duplication rates across the organization.
Because if the autonomous teams look incredibly productive in isolation, but the enterprise as a whole is sub-optimizing or fragmented because of all that redundant work.
Are you truly adopting AI successfully? That is the ultimate test of coherence.